that, okay, so hi everyone, my name is Toby Williams. I run Resa Gratia along with a bunch of very smart people, and we're like a research and analytics firm, business intelligence consultancy here in Lagos, and we've been around for just over a year, and we're looking forward to powering through the next couple of years. So primarily, we like to say we enjoy unraveling insights from data. So things that you would not normally see from normal charts and graphs. We like going in depth, right, to uncover some of these things, right, that aren't, would you say, that aren't easily visible. And it's been great. It's been great working along, a couple of these people, John, Toby, Mercy, Tosin, Obina. We have a lot of contributors that have done like great work. And towards the end of this presentation, I will be talking about open analytics. But guys, enough about Resa Gratia. We have a special guest here today, Warren. I'll do like a brief introduction, and then of course, I will leave the floor to him to continue, right? So I've been following like Warren on LinkedIn for quite a while now. I'm familiar with some of the work he's done, and I like the enthusiasm, right? And the way he applies BI to, as you mentioned, to help government to extract insights. And I think it's been great just following Warren, who is the founder of DataTale, and you can read all about his work on his website, following the link that we shared in the email. And he's currently in, are you in Casey at the moment?
Previously I was working at Casey. Yeah. So that was my old job. So that's, I'm not sure if you have local government. So that's the lowest level of government.
Right. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, that's just briefly on Warren. I'm just going to hand this over to Warren at the moment. And please, Warren, we're looking forward to this presentation. Cheers.
Thank you, Toby. I appreciate it, and I really appreciate you inviting me along. Great privilege, and I've been following the stuff you've been doing on LinkedIn as well, and some amazing stuff. So it's really exciting, kind of connecting people who love Power BI all over the world. So thanks so much for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. Oh, host disabled, participation, screen sharing.
Can try it again.
Try it again. Yep, awesome. All right, screen one. Okay, just checking. Can you see my screen?
Yep, I can.
Yep, Power BI. All right. So this is my presentation for 30-35 minutes. So we're looking at the best map and what's the best map in Power BI. So my name is Warren Dean. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, founded DataTale nearly a year and a half ago. And as I mentioned, I work mainly in the government sector. That's my background, nearly 15 years working in state and local government. And my business, DataTale, does Power BI training and consulting. So you can check out my link there, datatale.com.au. Feel free to go onto my blog. I try to do a lot of Power BI freebies, and I use a lot of kind of spatial analytics and things that are more interesting in, I suppose, in a government sense. So a little bit different to other Power BI companies. Also connect with me on LinkedIn there. Like to stay active on LinkedIn and follow what's happening in the Power BI world. So today for our agenda, we're going to be doing a face-off between ArcGIS, Mapbox, and the standard Power BI maps. So obviously these ones are free, your Power BI maps. ArcGIS, there is a paid version of ArcGIS. Everything I'm going to show you today is via the free version. And then Mapbox does require a license to connect to Mapbox, but you only pay for hits on the map. And me personally, I still haven't paid anything. So it's quite cheap. And if no one's using your maps, if you're using it for yourself, there's not going to be any cost. So essentially, it's a three-way battle between these two. You know, I see a lot of people who do maps all the time, and they're always just using, you know, latitude and longitude and the basic Power BI maps. I just want to show you, you know, what's available in the market. There's so much more that you can do, and hopefully at the end of this time, you'll see all the various products and what they can do. So the next time you're sharing a map on LinkedIn, maybe you can try ArcGIS or Mapbox. So what we're going to look at is the circle map, the cluster map, the heat map, shape map, and using a base map. And I'm going to be comparing these three products. And at the end, I'm actually going to show you the Azure map, which only just came out. I haven't had a chance to put it properly in the report, but I'll show you what it is.
That would be great. Awesome.
So I'm just going to open that a bit. So before we get started, I just want to show you this example because I love spatial data, and just to, I suppose, whet your appetite to see what you can do with spatial analytics. So as Toby mentioned, I worked at Casey, which is a large council in my area, and this is a map looking at children. So these are children under 4 in the, actually, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So what we have here, this is a heat map. So the redder it is, the more children. So you can see there's no children in this area, for example. So what I'm looking at is children under 4. And when children get to 4, they start to go to kindergarten. And these little houses are kindergartens. And what you can see is by combining 2 different data sets on a Power BI map, it's very easy to quickly tell stories. So you can see straight away down here, we have a whole cluster of children under 4, and they're going to have to travel all the way up here to go to kindergartens. So this was a project that I worked on, and, you know, I said to the team, hey guys, did you know about this? And they said, no, we didn't, we had no idea. The only way we know is when these individual kindergartens say, oh, we're full, we're full, we're full, we're full. And then they start looking at planning. But, you know, having access to this type of data, obviously children's data at birth, we can predict 4 years in advance where we're going to build the next kindergarten. So I actually took this and built a kindergarten right here. Because obviously in 4 years' time, they're going to need a kindergarten here. And also the reverse is true. You know, you can have a look at this kindergarten here. Do we really need a kindergarten for children in this area? We can see there's not many 0 to 4-year-olds being born in this area. So just a great way, and one of my favorite examples of how to tell stories with data and maps. So the first one we're going to have a look at, and obviously everything we're doing is in Power BI. So hopefully everything loads and nothing crashes on me. So I'm just going to compare Power BI map to ArcGIS to Mapbox, and up the top here I'm giving them stars out of 5. And the first one we're looking at is circles. So I'll just put this one into focus mode. Just open up the visualization pane on the side. So for circles, the normal Power BI map is not too bad. It does this interesting pie chart effect when you have more than one point at the same latitude and longitude, which is nice. And it also has, if I hover there, custom tooltips or report tooltips. You can't do this in Mapbox or ArcGIS. So, you know, it's quite a good feature for the circle map. But if I do go back, There is a limitation, and you can see here in ArcGIS there's a lot more points, and in Mapbox there's a lot more points. And that's because there's a 3,500 limitation on points. So if ever you've got data and you've got more than 3,500, the Power BI map is not going to cut it for you. The ArcGIS map will go up to 10,000, so that's okay, but 30,000 is actually the limit at the moment. For Power BI, and Mapbox will do your full 30,000. So already depending on the points that you have, will determine which map you're going to choose when you're using a latitude and a longitude. So the Power BI map here, you do have a few options. You do have size, so I can have bigger bubbles. I can have a custom tooltip, and I can have a legend for colors. So it's okay, it's not bad. I usually use it if I do have under, if I just have under a couple of thousand latitude and longitudes, I'd probably just use the Power BI map. So for this one, I've given it 3 out of 5 stars. The next one we're going to look at is the ArcGIS map. Now, ArcGIS is a little bit different to if you've used maps before in Power BI or any actually visual. So most visuals up here, you go more options, and you don't have many. That's export and remove. But in ArcGIS, if I click on this one, when I look at the format paintbrush, that loads. The options aren't actually here. The options are up in here. So when I go more options and I click on edit, this is where you get to the options. So it has its own kind of user interface where I can choose, the base map and the theme and the simple style, for example. So this one's not bad. You can use geocoding. Here you can see I've got dots again with different sizes. What are some of the options that we have as well? So I can determine the size and the color. You can even put time in there as well. So it's pretty good. I've given it 4 out of 5. And the next one I'll compare is Mapbox, and I'll just open that one up. Mapbox I've also given 4 out of 5. And what you'll find is, as I'm going through the presentation, Mapbox is a lot more customizable than ArcGIS. You can do a lot more things. So not only can we have more points, we can geocode, but there's a whole heap more options when I go to the circle option here. So I can control the size when I want them appear, so at my zoom level. Different colors here. They highlight, which is nice. So it does blue like this when I'm going over a circle. Opacity, blur, stroke width. So if you can see, I've got like an orange around each circle. So there is a few more options. The thing that I do find annoying is this tooltip. It only shows 3. So there's more than 3 points where I'm hovering right now, but it only shows like the top 3. If I show you the same in ArcGIS, if I zoom out a little bit, it's a bit hard to see, but it does come up with this like 1 to 3, and that'll be like 1 to 200 if there was more dots there, and you can flick through each one. So that there's, in this example there's 3, but there could be more than that. Whereas Mapbox is pretty limited. It just shows 3 tooltips, even though you can see there's a lot more there. And the final one I want to show you with the circles, and the reason why I haven't given Mapbox 5 out of 5 is it has a little bit of a bug at the moment. So if I go accident number, and if I pick an accident, when it zooms in, the dot just disappears, which is really annoying. If I pick 2, so you can see there was a dot there. So there's a very small dot there, and there's a dot here. But as soon as I untick this one, oh, I unticked the wrong one. I'll untick this red one on the left, zooms in, and then the dot disappears. So that's really annoying. And obviously, if someone's clicking on one dot, it doesn't really help you at all. Actually, and the other thing I will mention, something that I do love with Mapbox, is, let's see if we're looking here, and actually I should mention this data set, this isn't cases of COVID, if in case you were wondering. This is actually accidents. So the police mark every accident for latitude and longitude, and that's what we're looking at here. So let's say we had some data here, and I'm really interested in that data. I can take this little lasso up here, and I can go, oh, okay, here's a cluster of data here. I can draw my little lasso around it, and then I select all those points. So that's really useful when you're looking for clusters. You can do that in ArcGIS, but it only does it as a square. Mapbox is a little bit better that it does it as a lasso. I've used that before for looking at jobs, so certain jobs within a spatial area, and then determining how many jobs were done in a certain area at a certain amount of time. So that's the circle. Mapbox only gave 4 out of 5 because of that bug, but otherwise ArcGIS, Mapbox are pretty good. So, Toby, I just want to check, did you want to stop for questions? We do questions at the end. I just saw there's a few questions coming through.
At the moment, we're planning to take questions at the end, but I mean,
let's do that.
Yeah, I have just a quick question regarding this. So, so for the standard Power BI maps, you can do that sort of pie charts, right?
Pie charts, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but none available for the other ones, right? For ArcGIS.
No, they just kind of put them all on top of each other. So the Power BI map's nice because if you have, I can see there's 2 things, or there might actually be 4 there, because you can see it's a 25% severity 2, and then there's maybe 3 at severity 3, and it pulls it up as a pie chart. So yeah, look, the Power BI map, I would use it for a circle if I had under 3,500 points.
Right.
Especially the tooltip as well, which is cool.
Yeah,
you can put images cool, and so which is cool. These ones you can't do that.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, if you have any questions, just type in the group chat, and we'll collate them and answer them. Towards the end or after each section. Yeah. So Warren, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Toby. All right. The next one we're going to look at is cluster. So we'll just let these load. Now, you can't do a cluster in the Power BI map, unfortunately, so we won't worry about that one. But what a cluster is in the other example, I had a lot of points. 8,000 points were on that map. Sometimes it's hard to look at 8,000 points. You probably shouldn't do that, but you can use a cluster. So you can see here the different clusters are showing in this area, there's 3,500. In this area, there's 10,000. And then when I zoom in, so if I zoom in on this 18,000, obviously the numbers are going to get smaller and the clusters will disperse. So now there's 700 here and around. So you can do it in ArcGIS. I've given it 3 out of 5 stars. It's pretty limited. So what you're seeing now is pretty much all you can do. So it'll just cluster the points. You can change the colors of these bubbles, and that's about it. So it's okay. Mapbox, I'll just open it up so you can see. Again, it's a lot more customizable. So here we have all of Victoria. You can see there's a huge cluster in this area. So as I go down, this is going to disperse. And obviously you can see there's a lot of points, and as I'm going, it's not really lagging. I'm not really having any issues, so I can go down to 6,000. Now, the good thing about Mapbox is, if I show you on the options, just close that filters pane. On the cluster options, I can set the radius. So you can't do that in ArcGIS, but here I can set the radius. So you can see how many points are there, or clusters, sorry. If I took that down to 20, 20, not -1, 2. What are you doing? 2. All right, 502, no, 2, 0. Okay, Now you can see there's, well, now we have heaps of clusters. So bad example to do 20, but you can see that it is customizable. So 50 is probably a lot better to have it on, but 50. So again, everything with Mapbox and what I've found, it's a lot more customizable. So I can set the zoom again. So when we're zooming in, how do we want the clusters to, do we want the clusters to do? The radius, the blur, stroke width. So as again, there's just so many more options in Mapbox. So that's why for the cluster map, I've given it 5 out of 5. ArcGIS, it's okay if you don't want to customize it. So that's my comparison between those two. So the next one we're going to look at is the heat map. So all three of them do heat map. So let's look at the standard Power BI map first. So the options that we have for the heat map. So you can set the radius and you can set the pixels and the meters, and you can set the transparency. So there's a few options, it's not bad. And then you can have like a 3-step gradient. So here I've got light blue, green to red. The issue that I have with this map is you can see at this zoom level, it's okay. This looks pretty good. I can kind of see that accidents are following main roads, but let's see what happens when I zoom in. Okay, so that's not so bad, but now everything's just gone. So it doesn't really, you can set it up on one zoom level, but as you zoom, you kind of lose everything. And now it's actually just tiny little dots. So not super helpful. So I wouldn't use the heat map in the standard Power BI map, especially if you're expecting your customers to kind of zoom in and out. The ArcGIS also has similar issues. So as you can see here, I'll just go into focus mode for this one. If you remember back to when we're looking at the clusters, there was like 10,000 points here in Melbourne, and the rest was kind of dispersed. So what happens is it just kind of goes bang, everything's at Melbourne, and it's just a massive red dot. So it's not super helpful when I'm looking at all of Victoria, but as I zoom in, this will kind of fix up. And it's still really overpowered in Melbourne. But if I get rid of Melbourne and I just go here to the outer suburbs, then it's making a bit more sense. So, I've got a hotspot here and a hotspot there and a hotspot there. So these are my accident hotspots. So as you move away from the major hotspot, it's okay. Again, there is like no options. I can show you the options with ArcGIS. So if I go into show more options, we can go to edit. So if we have a look at simple style, so I can change the color ramp. And the one thing I do like about ArcGIS is it has these color ramps. That's not in Mapbox. If I go to map theme, so all I can do is pick heat map. That's it. These are where you choose what you're going to do. So I pick heat map, and my options are I can change the transparency, and I can change this color ramp. So maybe to that. So it's okay. I've only given it 2 out of 5 stars, and that's because I'm going to show you what you can do in Mapbox. So here you can see Mapbox, and we're fully zoomed out, and I can see that Melbourne's definitely a hotspot, but I can still see other hotspots as well, which is good because that's kind of how I want it to perform. Even though I know the majority are here, I can still go out to rural areas and see that there is hotspots out. And as I zoom, into Melbourne, it kind of disperses nicely. So even though, there was all red there, as I'm going in, the heat is dispersing. So I still can see, even though it's still hot here, I could still see hotspots. Unlike when we did it in ArcGIS, it would still be a massive blob here. So as I move away from Melbourne, it's not changing. It's still staying the same relative to the whole map. So I definitely like this one over ArcGIS for the heat map. I live here if anyone is interested, so not lots of accidents, that's good. And again, the options. So as you saw in ArcGIS, there was like 2 options. Here we can set the radius. So this is just a tip. If you ever do use Mapbox, the default radius is 5, which is just way overpowering. I always drop it down to 2 or 1, and I drop the intensity down to 0.1. These are a lot higher when you first use heat map for the first time. So minimum colors, it's the same. It's actually probably better in ArcGIS because it has a ramp. This one, you just have min, median, max. So it doesn't have that many options, but I think it's enough to do what it does. So definitely my preference here is Mapbox over ArcGIS for the heat map.
I think on this one too, Mapbox is clearly my preference as well.
Yeah.
It just looks so much better.
Yeah, it just looks better. And when you're interacting with it, just, it feels cleaner as you're scrolling. Whereas this one's it's okay, but it's quite overpowering. So I think the experience is a lot better with Mapbox. All right, so the next one we're going to have a look at is a shape map. You'll just note for the shape map, it's not the normal standard Power BI map. I'm using this one, which is, so you have 2. I think this one's called the field map. Not that one, don't use that one. This one is a shape map, which is a preview feature that you do need to turn on if you want to use it. So shape map, not the field map. Shape map has been in preview for like a year. I'm not sure what's wrong with shape map. I feel sorry for it. It's just never come out of preview, so it just stays in. I'm using here is shape map. So I'll show you that one. And I quite like shape map, so I've given it 3 out of 5. What I like about it is, it's quite clean, right? There's no imagery or roads or anything. I like to use shape map when it's not the highlight of my report. It's just something where I want to show some spatial information, but it's not the main emphasis of my report because it's not distracting, because it doesn't have the rest of the country around it, and you can have a nice shape. And again, you can have custom tooltips, which is really cool. So I can hover over here a shape, and it tells me that that's Sardinia. There was 120 accidents, the day of the week. So you can have a lot more information hovering over your shape map. So I do like it. Now I am using, if I go over here to the format options, I'm using a custom shape. So a GeoJSON. It has some default options, but it's pretty limited. Like Australia states, there's only like 7 states in Australia, so it's not super helpful. So you would have to have your own custom shape map to get this to work. So you do have some standard options, but they are pretty limited. So I'll just go back to report. So I have given it 3 out of 5 stars. I do like it. I use it quite a bit, again, because it's not very distracting. Custom tooltips is something I love to use. So that's the reason I've given it 3 out of 5. Now the ArcGIS, I've given 4 out of 5. What we're going to do is I'm just going to jump into focus mode. What I love about ArcGIS is that, unlike the one that we just looked at, the shape map, it has hundreds of pre-built shape files already in here for you. So I didn't have to import this. This is local government areas in Victoria. It was already just there. So if I go into here, into edit, and I can set the location type, So I've set it to boundaries and I've set it to country, one country in Australia. I open that up and you can see by default, I have postcodes, statistical areas, and all this information is already pre-built. So I actually kind of default to this one quite a bit because I don't have to go and create a shapefile and convert it and bring it into Power BI. They're all just there for me and it works nicely. So I do like it. And obviously there's a whole heap of countries and you can just pick what you want. So as you guys here, so pick on Nigeria. Oh, you've only got 2, but it's already there for you. Hopefully that doesn't break when I go back. So I do like that because it's pre-built. And for me, I use postcodes and local government areas quite a bit, and they're already in there. So it doesn't have custom tooltips, but you can make the kind of white lines around the shapes so that it stands out a little bit, which is good. So definitely my choice when I want to do something really quick, if the shape map matches the data that I have. The last one I want to show you here in the shape map is Mapbox, and we'll just expand that. Again, you know, the ultimate experience for what you want to customize. So it doesn't have, so it's referred to as a choropleth in Mapbox. So where is it? It doesn't have any options. So there's nothing pre-built. I can't pick, you know, states or suburbs or postcodes. Mapbox, you have to kind of know what you're doing and bring in a shapefile. So there's none of that for you. Let's just check my notes. So the colors again are limited. So to min, to median, to max, and then you have a highlight color. It is better in ArcGIS because usually in a map we have like color scales or ranges, and they already have them pre-built in ArcGIS. So you know, a min, median, and max is not great, but you know, for here it's doing the job. So you can see there's more accidents towards Melbourne than heading away from Melbourne. Again, the lines are customizable, but I suppose, you know, hats off to Mapbox is because if I hold control, I can actually move my map up and rotate it around and set it how I want. I can actually leave it on this angle. And what I can also do is set these extrusions. So not only can you have a color, but you can also have it 3D as well, which is kind of cool. And we zoom in and I can see these are all local government areas. And, you know, I can set my map like this. So not only do I have color, but I also have extrusion. So how high is it popping out? So all the shapes can pop out here. So when I have a look at them. So you can do 3D maps. And all you need to do a 3D map is to just throw something in the size option here. So I have a color and I have a size, and size is going to pop it out like that, like 3D.
That's awesome. On that, there's actually a question I think would be best answered at this point. So, so Tosin's curious to know if ArcGIS can also handle 3D maps like Mapbox. And when is the best time to use a 3D map, in your view?
My view, I've never actually. I don't find 3D maps a very good visualization. It's a little bit distracting. To be honest, I've never had a client that's actually gone, yeah, that's awesome, that's a 3D map, because it is a little bit distracting.
Right.
But I think it's cool. But yeah, unfortunately, it's a little bit distracting. So yeah, you can't do this in ArcGIS, but you can do it in Mapbox. I mean, if there was, for some reason, you had a project that, you know, you had 2 attributes that you did want to show. So maybe here, if I had color as accidents and maybe deaths as extrusions. So I could have, you know, a darker color here. This big one here is Melbourne, but they might not have been deaths. So maybe regionally, they'd be higher as there's a lot more deaths regionally. You know, maybe people are traveling faster on outer roads. They've seen a lot more deaths, but there's a lot more accidents. So you need to have like 2 attributes. You know, but even then, I don't use 3D maps that much.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that.
That's all right. The other thing that you can do, if I can get this to work, is drill throughs. So you can have different layers. So if I show you in here, in the chloropleth, drop down here. So here I've got a number of levels. I can have 2 levels of, that's a hard word to say. I'm just going to say shape maps. 2 levels of shape maps. So what that means is when I'm using my drill down, so I'll turn drill down on, I can have another layer under here. So if I just click on this one, hopefully it's going to work for me. Oh, sorry, it zoomed out. But you can see now it's zoom in too much. So I've got to set in my zooms, but I can zoom down into another layer and have a look at, you know, you might have, you know, state government, local government, postcodes. So you can go down multiple layers with a drill down. So you can do that in Mapbox. I did see, so ArcGIS did have their conference recently, and they are going to be releasing that soon. So it's not yet in ArcGIS, but it is coming, being able to have multiple layers and drill down. So coming for ArcGIS, but you can do it in Mapbox. So I've given ArcGIS, Mapbox, both of them 4 out of 5. ArcGIS is, you know, something if you want to do it real quick. You don't have to have as much map knowledge. Mapbox, obviously, a lot more customizable. So depends. And shape map as well, I use it as well. So this kind of depends on your scenario when you would pick one of those. So last section we're going to look at is the base map. So the Power BI map, I'll just open this one up. So the base map is, you know, what's at the bottom. So here you can see we can have some quite good satellite imagery. It's probably, I think, 20, oh, this one's using TomTom. So it's TomTom, it's 2020 photographs, so it's not bad. So you do have a few options for the base map in the standard map. So map styles here. So there's not many. So you've got aerial, dark, light, grayscale, road. Generally, I stick to grayscale or light. Usually, you don't want to be distracted by satellite imagery. It's not the point of your map. So look, it's okay. I've given it 3 out of 5 stars. ArcGIS is actually really cool what you can do with the base map. So if I expand this here, now ArcGIS have ArcGIS online. So you can get a whole heap of base maps already built for you. So what I have here is I've gone and got a base map of local government areas. And so that's what you can see here. And it already has these colors scales in it. And then I'm putting my points on top of it. So, you know, there's actually, none of these maps you can actually have 2 attributes on one map. So this appears like it's 2 attributes, but it's actually ArcGIS Online. It's a base map or a reference layer is what it's referred to. And then I've put my points on top of it. So there's a whole heap of reference layers there that you can just put on top. So here I can tell 2 different stories. I have points of accidents. And here I actually have the count of hospitals. So there's more hospitals in this area, not so much. And as you're going out regionally, there's less hospitals. So you can tell stories with reference layers and points. And it appears like, you know, you have more than one attribute on your map, but you actually only have one. So I'll just show you how to get to that reference layers, because this is really cool. Reference layers are here. So I went into edit, go in the reference layers. And I never actually used this before because I was always like, when it comes here in demographics, it's only showing you the USA. Like, I'm not interested in USA demographics. But if you click on this option here, ArcGIS, and then, so for me, I'm in Victoria. I select Victoria. All right, it's lagging for a bit, but there's, oh, here we go. So there's hundreds of maps already created by other people. And, you know, some of them are kind of, you know, official maps. So these are official government maps. Anybody obviously can create an ArcGIS online map, and they're all there. And, you know, I just pick one, or I could get someone to make one. So this is the one I think I'm using. Heat maps, so you could have heat and dots. So they're all pre-built for you. You just need to know what you want, or know someone with an ArcGIS online account who can make a map for you, and then you can put it on as a base map. So that's really cool. Now in Mapbox, you can do it as well. So I'll just open up Mapbox. I've also given it 5 out of 5. So obviously you can do the same thing. And this is similar to the story that I told at the start. So here I have a heat map. And what I actually have here is, if I zoom in, is we have schools. So I just took a CSV that had latitude and longitudes of schools, and I uploaded it into Mapbox, and I just made it like a custom icon that looks like a school. And now I'm able to have, so I've created my own base map in Mapbox, and now I can have accidents and schools. So I can kind of zoom in and I'll be like, oh, okay, you know, here's, you know, that's a school close to accidents, a school close to accidents. And, you know, I can tell a story like this. So I actually did use this one with a client once that wanted to look at accidents next to school crossings. And we were able to just put it on a map and look in and find accidents that were very close to school crossings. So this one, again, you know, it's similar to ArcGIS Online. You can just do it in Mapbox. So this school data obviously is not interactive. I can't click on these schools because that's just on the base map. But obviously the end user doesn't know that. The other thing, actually, you can enter an address in here. So that's where I live, Berwick, Victoria, Australia. And it can zoom to a certain location and pin it. So that's the geocoder here, which is pretty cool. All right. So last thing I want to show you, so that Azure map just came out. I haven't had a chance to fully explore it, but I thought I'd add it on just to show you. It is in preview. It is quite slow. I find it quite slow, but there is licensing tiers with it. So I've got the same data that we've been using now, and this is in the Azure map. And what I've got here is the count of a latitude and longitude. So you see it's a little bit slow. It's not, as you know, Mapbox and ArcGIS, we're kind of zooming in and everything was just going nicely. So I'll just leave that for a second and it'll get there. So it's a little bit slow, but that's because I don't think it's meant to be free. There's different tiers. So now you can see it's working. So I've got the height, the option in here. If I just click on the map. So I'm just using latitude and longitudes. I'm using a legend. So these are different colors for local government areas. And the size is on severity. So that's what's popping them up. So it's okay. And obviously they'll expand on this map a bit. There's a few other things, and unfortunately I haven't had time to actually get into it properly, but so you can do bubbles. I'm doing the bar chart at the moment. You can add a reference layer. You can actually have the traffic layer. So if I select that on, I can put incidents from the traffic layer on here. Just give it a second to load. So I did have, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more. As you can see, it lags quite a bit, but I do have a lot of points. So I've got 8,000 points on this map. So here can you see the incidents, and you can see these little, so there's roadworks happening here. That road's probably blocked. And I think if we click on it, so it gives you more information. So roadworks, and that's the road. That's how big the roadworks are. So obviously that's connected to a government authority that we have here, and it's able to connect to that data. So traffic, if there's any traffic incidents and issues as well. So I'm sure they're going to build this out a lot more. Hopefully I'll have a bit more time to play around with it and do a blog on it. But you know, it looks exciting. So I think that's one to watch, the Azure map, which is in preview.
Yeah, looks yeah, it actually looks really
Cool.
interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that feature you just showed now, which is the traffic control layer, that is inbuilt into the Azure Maps, right?
Yeah, everything I was doing there was free. All I did was drop a latitude and longitude, and I just turned that on. So that was just there. So obviously, they must be connecting with some government organization. Here it would be Victoria Roads that control all that information, and they
Do,
must be pulling it in.
do you think that could be live data, or is this some sort of is it historical data, you think? I mean, I know you have.
I haven't tested it, but I'd hope it's live. Otherwise, it would be pretty pretty useless putting historical closed roads on a map.
Interesting.
So this is just my last slide. Obviously, we'll take some questions after this, but yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate letting me come along and share maps and what you can do with maps. Feel free to, you know, my blog, I'm usually, you know, giving away free PBIX files and doing interesting things. So feel free to sign up on my website. I do have an online training course, which is online and on demand. And actually everything that you've seen me do today is covered. So you'll learn how to do that from scratch in the training course. So if you are interested, go onto my website, reach out if you want to know more about that. Happy to have a chat.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks a lot, Warren. Thank you for that. I thought that was a fantastic session, actually. And you know, the comparison between the various types of maps, and you know, I actually like that you snuck in the Azure Maps as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. So we do have a few questions here, actually, right? So beginning with, I think you already answered one. So one comes in as, so when should one use a map, right? There are situations when a map might not be necessary. How can one determine when to use a map or not?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, just because you have a latitude and longitude doesn't mean you should always use a map. Um, I don't know. I would use a map. I mean, I'm always using map if I do have latitude and longitude, but that's because I think you can tell a lot of stories with maps. I suppose my clients are all government based. You might have clients, you know, I'm working with a mining client at the moment. You know, they're not interested in maps. They don't care about spatial data. So I think it really would be determined by the client. I would still show them, you know, if you do have some spatial data, here's the stories that I can get out of it. But you are right. Some clients are not interested in spatial maps whatsoever. But if they are collecting that data, you know, if you can tell an interesting story, if you think there's value in it, I'd always investigate and add that as, you know, an optional extra to your client.
Okay. The next one here is, so Warren, what map was used to create the story around children under 4 with clusters
Yeah.
in
So
schools?
this one. Oh, sorry, this one.
The example, okay. So,
Yeah, this one's Mapbox.
right. And there's a
And
layer.
if you were to do this yourself, yeah, if you were to do this yourself, the easiest way is to do it is Mapbox. And so these are just from a CSV, so a latitude and longitude of locations of buildings. And then obviously I've got the heat map, which is, I showed you that in Mapbox, but I've just uploaded a CSV of latitude and longitudes, and that's the base map.
Okay, okay, great. Uh, the next one is, what type, right, of map would you advise when, you know, when you're trying to display the global pandemic? Um, you know, which of the visuals would you advise, right, when displaying this, say, COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, yeah, it's hard, right? Because we don't have, generally we just have countries or to state level. Obviously the pandemic is, you know, so widespread. We don't have, so in this example here, these are actually where people live.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense. If I did a heat map of COVID cases, you know, we just know this whole region here, and that'd just be one point.
Yeah.
So, you know, usually you don't use, if I go to the shape map, you know, you could use something like that. And I have seen maps like that, you know, to show certain regions, but you don't really have point data for showing COVID cases. You might have regions or even countries at some point. So I would probably, yeah, just use more of a shape map, or you could do a circle representing a country. If you are interested, actually, in playing around for COVID map, I do have one that you can download on my website. That's, hopefully it still works. I did it like a month ago, so it was connecting to live data. Can you see my website?
Yep.
Oops, sorry, not that. Blog. So there is a COVID report on here. So you know, feel free to download it. The PBIX is here, so you can download it and have a play with it. So that's my COVID report that I was playing around with. I don't think it's been updated for a while because I did it like 2 months ago. But if you want to download it, it's connected to the WHO data, and have a go. I don't think I did a map in this one. Actually, I should mention that one. So I did do a map, ArcGIS, but ArcGIS isn't supported for publish to the web.
Right.
So that's why you can't see it. But this one is just states, so it's at a state level for Australia.
Okay. I've just shared that link. If anyone wants to go through it in the chat. Okay, so the last question here we can take is, second. Okay, so how can the different types of maps be selected? I only know of the default in Power BI, which is a circle map. So I think,
Yep.
Yeah, maybe the ArcGIS just want to touch on how that was.
Yeah, so
BI.
ArcGIS, sorry, that's a good question. I should show you where they all are. So obviously you have your standard Power BI map. ArcGIS is standard, so it's always going to be there as a standard, unless, you know, they've turned it off in your tenant. The ArcGIS map looks like that. It is one of the standard maps. And Mapbox is a custom visualization, which obviously you need to click on here and go to get custom visualizations, or app source they're called now. So go into the app source and get that visualization. But yeah, the ArcGIS is by standard, it's in as a map here. And obviously I'm just selecting options. So as I showed you in ArcGIS, the options are up in here. For Mapbox, it behaves more as you'd expect. So your options are in the format. So I'm turning them on and off here. So here's all the options. So circle map, heat map, cluster map, choropleth map.
Okay. And one more very quickly before we round up. Is there any of these maps, right, that will show or display when exported as PDF, for instance?
Good question. I don't usually export as PDF.
So if you were to
Sorry, off the
export
top of my
this,
head, I can't. Yeah, so obviously if you publish this to the service and then export it as a PDF, would that come out? Good question. Obviously the standard Power BI map should, and ArcGIS should as well, because it is a standard one.
okay.
I'm not going to answer it because I'm not sure off the top of my head. Sorry.
Okay, not a problem. Can always find that out. I think I've had issues actually with publishing or printing Mapbox to PDF, but I'm not entirely sure, shape map visuals or the ArcGIS map. But yeah, awesome. So thanks a lot, Warren. This has been great. This has been awesome. And I just wanted to thank you for honoring this and presenting to our cohort here, and obviously people from LinkedIn that have joined us as well. And it has been great. So I'm just going to show something quickly before we round up,
Yep.
which is let me just share this screen, which is, I don't know if you can see my screen. Okay, so I just wanted to run this through. At Resa Gracia, we're heavily involved in like open analytics, right? So we essentially try to make sense of data that is available openly, particularly on Nigeria at this point, but we're making an effort to analyze other types of data. And this is something that we're heavily involved in, and we also try to ensure that those who come to like trainings, right, workshops, get a hang of this. So this is, you can call it like your sort of portfolio that you can add to your CVs, right, when you've successfully worked through this project. So you're not just receiving a certificate, you're going hands-on into developing something about Nigeria, something that has to do with open data. So as Warren mentioned, this is an example of like a shape map visual. This one is on Nigeria, right? These are all like interactive visuals. And this one took like a month or month plus at least to complete with our cohort. And yeah, so just to bring that to your attention, that we're going to be running another set coming this August. So our trainings will continue this August online, and we'll get to work on more open analytics projects. And I'm hoping that you guys will be able to join us at the workshops. So you can just go to our website as well and go to training, and you can even download a free ebook to begin with, and then look at the registration details. So that is what I wanted to share with you, and to bring your attention again to open analytics, which I think is a great initiative for every one of you to be a part of. So I think on that note, we can actually, someone's raising their hand. So we have like 1 minute to go. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Okay, Warren, one more thing, actually. I want to know, like, what software are you using to zoom in? When you're presenting, there's this aspect when you zoom in and then you make the annotation.
Yeah, it's called Zoom It. Just Zoom and IT.
Zoom
It, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. This has been great, and everyone is really happy that for this session that you just delivered. So thanks a lot, Warren.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I've had a great time. I always love showing maps, and also, yeah, definitely, open data. So much value in open data and understanding it. So that looks awesome. But thanks, Toby. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. Cheers, guys, and have a great day. All right. Bye.
Yeah.